Thank you for joining me. This is Chuck Morse. You can join the conversation by literally emailing themorseforce@gmail.com, and you can then come in as an audio voice or as a video split screen, which appears, of course, on YouTube as part of the daily program. I'm doing the show a little bit early today. Usually the program is at 12 noon, Monday through Friday. And we try to keep up maybe about a 10, 15-minute segment here. Hopefully that'll expand as callers come in and as I roll out the program this year. I want to talk a little bit about a new movie called Call Me By Your Name. I haven't seen it. I'll admit that. Probably won't see it. I've read a few reviews. I've seen the trailer. Stars Armie Hammer and Timothy Chalamet. And it's about an older guy who seduces a young man. Now, the issue here for me is not the homosexual side of it. That's fine as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I'll point out about that is that if this had been an older man seducing a young girl or young woman, that would be completely unacceptable in today's ethos. It would be seen as immoral, as exploitive, as an older person using their power over a younger person with an imbalance. I think also if it had been an older woman seducing a younger man, maybe it would be a little bit more acceptable, but it would still be seen as pretty creepy. And of course, if it was a lesbian story, it also would be seen, I think, as creepy by most people, and you'd see a power imbalance. But because it's the older man seducing a younger man, or the younger man seducing the older man, however it works out, it's seen as acceptable, and this is not a criticism on homosexuality. The main issue for me is the fact that the younger man looks like he's just out of puberty. Now, this is not technically pedophilia. Apparently, he is of age legally. So you can't say that it's openly, technically, literally promoting pedophilia. However, isn't this what Roy Moore was accused of doing in the Alabama special race? He was dating young women who were legally at the age of consent. Wasn't he accused of pedophilia by all the liberal media? I remember listening to progressive radio and seeing articles in Alternet and Counterpunch and left-wing groups and even mainstream groups. I think I might have even heard it on MSNBC. I could be mistaken. But the charge that he's a pedophile, okay? Suddenly the left is all up in arms and outraged. But for this movie, it's being promoted. I mean, I've seen ads for it on television. I've seen glowing reviews, and the media has rolled out the carpet. This is a great epic, a love story even. And that Armie Hammer is a great actor, and he's the next leading man. And by the way, he is a good actor. I saw him in the movie Lone Ranger and Tonto, which I liked a lot. I thought that was an excellent movie with Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer. But the nature of this thing is such that I would suggest, and I would argue, that it is part of an agenda to legitimize pedophilia. Now, obviously the left being the left, they're going to use these things as weapons against anyone that doesn't genuflect in their direction, as they did against Roy Moore. But for this case, and I think that the fact that it is a homosexual relationship adds to it. It gives a little extra, piece of change agentry. It is seen as not only acceptable, but as a great and courageous work, and that this is something that's the cutting edge of society. Now, I cannot point to a lot of proof that pedophilia is being normalized, is being legitimized, and even glamorized. But there is more than an echo out there. I mean, there was a conference in Canada about a year ago where pedophilia was referred to as a quote-unquote orientation rather than as a perversion and as a mental problem, which is technically what it's still seen as under the law and in the psychiatric community. Now, when you call something an orientation, you're removing the moral aspect to it, and you're even implying that it's something that is beyond a person's control, as if it's somehow genetic, it's somehow wired in, that they can't help it, that this is their behavior, it's who they are. And so it opens the door to, and it presents a situation by which you have to begin to legitimize it because they can't help it. And thus it becomes acceptable and even morally acceptable over time. And I think that's exactly what is happening here. Now, I'm not suggesting that 99% of us, think this, of course. But I do think that the fact that there has been this conference, there was an article in the New York Times about maybe 6 months ago. I'll have to get my fingers on that, but I remember reading it, and it looked like something that was legitimizing pedophilia as a phenomena. And this movie, and we're going to see other things, that is going to begin to move the ball toward legitimizing pedophilia. And I predict that pedophilia, maybe 3 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, is going to be the next great cause of the sexual revolution and of the civil rights movement. That it's going to be seen as something that we can't help, and that it's an orientation, and that those of us who oppose it are Neanderthals, and we have old-fashioned morality, which is false, and it's going to be. I think there's going to be a move on to make it legitimate and even possibly legalize it. Excuse me. So that's my thoughts about this today. Sorry about the little interruption there. And I want to thank you for joining me this afternoon. Have a good day, everybody.